Hey, welcome everyone. This is we're back to working with the law. This particular session that Karin Gatrinig and myself, Lee Jenkins, are going to help you try to understand today is the law of obedience. Um, Kind of sounded funny in the moment, like especially if anyways, I won't get into it. I can make a lot of jokes about this, but I won't because that's not what this is actually about. It's about being obedient to the laws of the universe. And something I wanted to point out with this too is that all the chapters in this book are fantastic, but the last three, like yesterday we had the law, or sorry, the last one was the law of sacrifice. Today being the law of obedience, and next week is the law of success. Is that correct? I think yes, right?
All right. Yeah.
I think these last three here, if you're serious about making change in your life, these are really definitely something you want to pay attention to. So again, welcome, Karin Gatrinig, the Queen of Smiles.
Thank you. Thank you.
And again, I'm Lee Jenkins. I try to smile. Um, uh, Karin makes me smile. There you go. She smiles enough for both of us, I think. Anyhow, the law of obedience. Let's get started with this. Now, like I always try to point out the fact that he refers to the Bible a lot. None of this is actually meant to be religious in any way. It's not designed to encourage or discourage anybody from anything that you may happen to believe or think. And the other thing is he does use the word God a lot. In fact, I think he uses it quite a bit in this one. You can easily replace that with universe or source, whatever it is that you would like to refer to it as. So let's get started. Now he starts out with a quote from, again, the Bible, Jeremiah 7:23. He says, "Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people." Now, the interesting thing about that is that's not what he talks about. So I'm not really sure why he put that there, but it's there, and it's actually quite good. Now, when he says, "Obey my voice, and I will be your God," I think he's talking about the whole idea of understanding the laws.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's start out. He starts out by saying, "To be ushered into turmoil, blindly toil a few years, and then go out into uncertainty. It is surely not the purpose of man's existence. Life must mean more than this, and it does mean more. Man should be a builder, and to him is given all the materials out of which to construct the kind of life he desires to live. He builds in wisdom or in ignorance, according to his obedience, according to his understanding of a divine law and the use of it, his daily life." Now, that just made me think too of like something that I always try to help people understand is that our job is the what? The universe, source, God, whatever, again, whatever you want to call it, will show you the how, right? And that's what he's talking about here is you have a choice. You have a choice to live in turmoil, or you can build something fantastic. And by obeying these laws, well, you're going to succeed. And again, like that's things that Karin and I both help our coaching clients with is to help them understand that. Uh, there's so much to all of this that you can say yes, I want this, but you have to obey these laws. And these laws mean basically you have to let go of whatever else that's going on in your mind to take you there. So, anyways, he carries on, and I like this part here. Many people, when they learn that the science of living is governed by exacting laws, immediately assume that to live rightly is to live the hard way. They are afraid of the law that is exacting in its demand when it touches their relationship with the finer things. Yet these same people would not be willing uh, would not be willing that the laws which govern human society should be modified in any way. They recognize that the laws which govern social conduct and activity must be properly enforced if organized society is to function harmoniously and safely. In other words, they recognize that government is for the good of mankind and that without it, human life and welfare would be continually in jeopardy. If this is true of human government and established by constitution and law, it is even more true of divine government. And the more exacting the law, the more certain the safety, prosperity, and happiness of him who fulfills the law's demands. Now, in the realm of science, no laws are more exacting than those which govern the science of mathematics. An accountant, even when he fails immediately to solve a problem, knows it can be solved only by calling into operation the exacting laws that govern all mathematical calculations. Were those laws subject to change, the solution of mathematical problems would be utterly hopeless. Right? And again, that's getting to the point where is when you understand these laws, there really is no end to the possibilities in your life. And he's pointing out here about the science of mathematics. It's exact. And that's the same thing. We've talked about the law of attraction and things like that. It's exact. And the only thing stopping us, and this is something Karen and I both talk about, is causing our realities. If you're not getting the reality you want in your life, is because you're not following the laws. And it's not your fault. It's got nothing to do with blame. It has more to do with understanding. And again, that's why I highly recommend reach out to Karen, reach out to myself, and we can certainly help you with this. Now, he goes on to say, perhaps in no way has religion gone so far astray as in its conception of understanding of God, whether it be the God of the Christians or the heathens. Now, instead of recognizing that the supreme intelligence is law, operating according to and as surely as the laws of nature, men have created in their ideas of God who is partial, subject to appeal from saint and sinner alike, a God who can be persuaded and bargained with, a God who gives life and takes it away, a God who heals sickness and causes it, a God who impoverishes and enriches, a God who rewards and punishes. And having accepted this wrong idea, it has made prayer largely a matter of doubts, lacking in that strong assurance that a thing will be so because it is according to divine law. Now, something with that too is I always love the thing is, some scholar or some biblical scholar probably correct me, but somewhere Jesus, when somebody asked Jesus, how do I pray to God? And he pointed out that God does not listen to the words. He listens to the vibration of their heart. And again, the heart is your subconscious mind. That's, the Greeks actually referred to your subconscious mind as the heart of hearts. So it's the vibration you're in that's the prayer. So if you think about it, if you get down on your knees and you start saying, oh, dear Lord, help me, I can't pay my bills. The sad part is you're going to get more reasons why you can't pay your bills. And this is where you have to start to understand God is giving you everything and anything you actually want. You're just asking for what's wrong, for the wrong things. And that's the problem is people are always asking for what's wrong. And it's important to really understand it. So this is, again, I think this is a great lesson for people. And so I highly recommend reach out to Karen and myself, and we'll certainly get you a copy of this if you would like one. To many folks, this aspect of truth creates an illusion of God for all, a God who is not interested in man's needs and problems, a God who is not a father to whom we can take our cares and with whom we can converse. They have taken away my Lord, cried Mary. Sooner or later, however, they discovered that this divine knowledge of the nature of God as law has given them their Lord in a sense so close and intimate that all doubt in claiming their good is ended. For once the law is understood, we hold the secret of eternal happiness, peace, and dominion or mastery over all the forces around us. The word obey means to submit to rule or to comply with orders or instructions. Obedience, then, is the governor of all movement, whether it be mechanical, literal, or spiritual. A giant machine without its governor would tear itself apart, would be utterly destroyed because it failed to obey its own laws of momentum or gravity. An intellectual giant who fails to comply with the laws of learning will become as an idiot. A student failing to comply with or to obey the instructions of spirit, the law of God, will reverse that good and create evil. We are dependent entirely on obedience for our success or failure in this life. Our societies, cities, states, and nations are supported by it. Our properties and lives are dependent upon it. Because of our respect for obedience, we, as a whole, support it. But woe unto the man who tries to break through to pillage, to plunder for selfish gain. As we look into the home, we see the mother training the child into habits of discipline. Tomorrow, we see a happy mother because their child has grown into youth and manhood and has earned success. A success because back in the beginning of his life, the seed of obedience was placed there, which brought forth respect, obedience, and unselfish thought. On the other hand, we may see where others fail because they have been allowed to grow up being disobedient, disrespectful, and selfish. We see that all the time with people. Like you see, young kids out there, getting into gangs and fighting all the time and stealing and things like that. It's because they didn't have the guidance.
Yeah.
They didn't have to learn obedience, right? Now he carries on here. He says, business is founded upon obedience. And as each member obeys the laws of commerce, he will succeed. It is only when man expands these laws by over speculation and by wildcat schemes, inflated values, or lack of cooperative agency that he brings upon himself failures and causes bankruptcies and loss. All our problems of life are due to some measure of our obedience to the law of thought and its creator, God. Our difficulties have been in knowing what to obey and what not to obey. Your thoughts, Miss Karen Gatrinick?
Yeah, what Raymond Hollywell means, I think this is in the first sentence when you wrote the quote out here from the Bible, obey my voice and I'll be your God and you shall be my people. This is follow the laws and listen to the intentions and the impulses, because we are always led. The universe is always leading us in the right direction, and listen to the impulses, to the intuition is the law of obedience. This is going in this direction where the universe takes us.
That's right.
And I think this is all in the first sentence here. If we obey the laws, we get what we want. And I think this is very important for everyone to learn this lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the way to success.
And I think you should obey Karen.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a good idea. Now this says you're supposed to start reading.
Yeah, Karin reads. I have it here too. The next paragraph, yeah, I like it. We see in nature the answer. She has no troubles she cannot overcome. She has no problems she cannot solve. She has no burdens she cannot bear. No tasks she cannot perform. Why? All her operations are governed by the mighty law of harmony and order, which constantly removes every discord, which heals all disease, which rights every wrong, which supplies every need. If in the winter a young sprout attempts to break through the soil before season, Mother Nature destroys that sprout, drills it off, or freezes it out. Yet at the same time, the very snow and ice that freeze the little unruly sprout serve as a blanket of warmth and protection to the other seedlings complying with her laws. When man wishes to use nature in his work, such as farming or gardening, he must know how to comply with nature's law. In turn, as he obeys her laws, he derives the best results, and in the end, he will enjoy the greatest harvest. He who obeys the laws of nature and acts as her obedient servant later becomes the master and reaps a full harvest. So this is a beautiful explanation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I always like the term, I don't know who said it. Actually, I think it comes from the Bible. There's a season to sow and a season to reap. It's never both in the same season. Right. And that's the thing.
Exactly.
You have to sow the seeds.
Yeah.
And when the crop comes up, you reap the benefits from it. Right. That you harvest those crops, and that's when you start to win. You're following the laws of the universe here. Like you're obeying the law of nature. And that goes into, that's the same thing with even a business or relationships. Like you have to do the work And that's an area really, I think we've talked about that even like in the law of sacrifices. Most people don't want to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't sow the seeds, like they're saying, Mother Nature is saying, you do this, then you will gain the harvest. So if you're not willing to sow the seeds, then stop even thinking about getting what it is you want, because you won't. You have to, like we were talking about in the law of sacrifice, you have to be willing to sacrifice, right? So carry on.
Absolutely.
Carry on, Karen Gatrinick.
Every student who obeys the law and is a true servant of God will become a greater soul and will reap the power to control his every condition and enjoy blessings scalar. This is what the Master tried to tell us when he said, "He that is greatest among you shall be your servant. Whosoever shall exalt himself shall be humbled. Whosoever shall humble himself shall be exalted." Yet this does not picture for us a weakling, one who gives away the stronger or is easily brushed aside by the more aggressive. For Paul says, "When I am weak, I am strong," meaning, of course, that when he is weak to obey the law of God, he is strong and spirited. Our mistakes are largely due to the fact that we have obeyed more readily the laws of earth than the laws of spirit. We have subjected our ideas to the outward appearance of things rather than to the inner truths as the law teaches them. Peter and the apostles said to those who gathered around them in the marketplace, "We must obey God rather than man. We must obey the law of good rather than the law of man." They knew that an individual is only as he thinks he is, and if he obeys the prompting of the spirit or the urge of his senses, his results will be accordingly. Paul says, "Know ye not to whom you yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants you are to whom you obey, whether of sin unto death or obedience unto righteousness." If we are to obey the spirit within us rather than the conditions about us, then the law requires us to first think things into existence from the within before we shall see them on the without.
Thoughts become
Most,
things. Sorry,
pardon me?
thoughts become things, right?
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
that's something too
And
that
I think what's important here too is we talked about the sprouts, and it's time for sprouting out, and it's time for the harvest. This is the same with putting out a wish, a goal,
Mhm.
asking the universe is a different vibration as receiving.
Mhm.
And I
That's right.
think this is also here a crucial part in this chapter. Yeah, with the
And
law
like
of
you said, it
obedience.
says too, like first think things into existence from the within before we shall see them on the without. Right. So when you start to understand that, everything in your reality, in your world, is coming from within. And the universe is simply responding to whatever you're pointing out. And if you're following the laws, then you're going to have it. If you're not, then you won't. And that's it's not always easy to understand, but if you're not getting the results you want, it's because you're not following the law. Right. And that's all it is. So what's causing it? And that's something you and I spend a lot of time with our clients, is talking about conditioning,
Yeah, yeah,
paradigms. Like
yeah.
if you're not getting the results you want, you're not following the law. And it has a lot to do with you're not conditioned to see the results you want.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you want exists. Snap a finger. Like, you go back to what you were saying in regards to Mother Nature. It all exists. You plant a seed,
Yeah,
put it in fertile soil, it must grow.
It must grow. It is law.
It's
Yes.
law. It's not like, oh, it's not going to grow. Like you can't take a seed and plant it in cement.
Yeah.
It won't grow. But again, if you put it in fertile soil, which means you're, associating with people of like-minded, people that are encouraging, inspiring you, motivating you. Get a coach if you have to. Get people that want to help you. That's putting it in fertile soil. Then you must act. You must tend to it. And then within some period of time, by law, it's going to get to the point where you can harvest whatever it is you want. Right? That's the way it is.
Right. Yeah.
Fascinating
So,
stuff.
and everyone has to do the work in nature and the work within.
Within, exactly. Yeah, very good.
And that's if we think about the harvest we want to have, so we have to put water on the sprout, and we have to take care of the little plants, and that's the same with our thoughts. We have to do the inner work, and that's the law of obedience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about children for a moment. Like, if you don't like the way your children turned out, well, guess what? It's your fault. Right? That's
Yeah.
what I think. People say, "Oh, that my kids are this and that." Well, you caused it.
Yeah.
You didn't put it in.
Absolutely.
You didn't put it in fertile ground. Right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
same thing with a dog. Like I know you were, before we got on the call, you were talking about your dog barking. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a happy, healthy, loving dog comes from the environment that it was placed in. An angry dog that wants to bite everybody was placed in an angry environment, unfertile soil, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You're happy, you got a loving, wonderful dog, Malibu there, that
Mm-hmm.
obviously was placed in a fertile soil and therefore has turned into a beautiful, wonderful dog that maybe likes to bark.
Yeah. And that's the same with the harvest. Yeah. You can take everything. You can take the children or a dog, animals,
Relationships,
whatsoever. You can take a
even
business,
what about health?
health,
Right?
relationships.
If you eat proper food and you exercise, you're going to harvest a healthy body.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, you'll have a healthy mind, and you're going to find that you're going to harvest even more great things because you feel great. You're in a good
Yeah.
vibration. This is a great chapter. I think actually
Yeah.
the whole book's a
Absolutely.
good, the whole phase.
Absolutely. So I think I lost my line without. Mhm.
I did.
Most of our experiences are the outgrowth of our own created activities. Here we go. These created activities are first to be bound in thought that we think in our minds. And here we have it again. Everything starts with the thinking, everything starts with one single thought. And I would love to bring that out to so many people as possible, that they are really aware what they are thinking, because it's such a difference when you are really conscious about your thoughts and you know what you are thinking, because then you are ready for change.
Yeah, that's not an easy. It's actually, it's an easy process, not always easy to do. That's why it's really important to get yourself involved with some
Yeah.
people who can inspire and encourage you and understand this type of materials.
Yeah. That's what I say all the time. It's a simple process, but it's not easy.
It can be really
But
difficult, actually,
yeah,
but
it can
but
be a
it is
challenge.
possible. It is possible, right?
It is possible. Oh, yes. So, in your minds, the law reads, as you sow, so shall you reap, which is mathematically accurate and true. If you plant a turnip seed, nature does not produce potatoes. If you plant a corn seed, nature does not make a mistake and bring forth a giant oak tree. On the same reasoning, if you plant thoughts of worry, the law you obey will give you something to worry about. It will produce more and more circumstances to increase your worries. If you think of dis-ease, I like this word dis-ease. I heard it once from Bob Proctor when he said it's not a disease, it's
Ease.
dis-ease,
Yeah.
out of ease. and lack, you will receive exactly what you are expecting. Whatever law you obey will in turn serve you. The most important thing then is to know what to obey. You laugh at the troubles of little ones because you view them from their true value. To the child, his tiny task seems real and all important, and not until he outgrows his childish ways can he look back with amusement and not feel regret. Not until we can rise superior to our problems and our troubles can we ever hope to cease to have further troubles. A mother put a little boy to bed one night, but later she found him restless, unable to sleep. He called down and asked that the light be left lighted for him. The mother knew something was wrong, so she went up to his room and gained his confidence by talking with him. She learned that during the day, other children had threatened to send the boogeyman after him because he would not give over his toy to them. The mother then explained that there was no boogeyman. She said that the principle of it was to frighten him into submission so that he could give over his toy to the other children. She told him he could go to sleep because there was no real boogeyman. The child had obeyed the illusion of things and was frightened, but the mother saw the truth. In knowing the truth, she could see through the principle of fear involved, and by dispelling it from the mind of her son, enable him to go peacefully to sleep.
Yeah, it's a good example, very good example. Like, that made me also think of, what do we do as adults? We often, start our day by turning on the news.
Yeah,
Now, what does the news do? They spend the entire time talking about boogeymen.
absolutely.
The sky is falling and it's all that person's fault. That's the boogeyman over there. And the results of the sky is falling because of that boogeyman. You should be afraid. You should always
Yeah,
have fear, right?
yeah,
And you should be angry at the boogeyman. So this is what happens. Like, you got to realize that, just like those kids were picking on this child, we're surrounded by it all the time. And
all
it's
the time.
so important to just start to tune it out. You know,
Mhm.
you again, by following these laws, you can create whatever reality you want. Like, there's people out there. I start thinking of some of the most successful people, like we're hearing Elon Musk in the news a lot lately. I like Richard Branson. People like that. They're
Yeah,
not focusing on boogeymen.
no.
They're not. Like, it's impossible. They couldn't possibly be where they are if they were worrying about the boogeyman. I'm pretty sure that they probably don't watch the news.
Mhm.
They're creating
And
them.
I have to be honest, I don't watch the news too.
And
I don't listen to the news on the radio. I just listen to music. I don't watch on TV. Whatever comes out. No, because what they do with the people is they bring the fear into the world, and people they take the vibration of fear. Yeah,
yeah, that's the media. That's their job, is to keep you angry and afraid. As long as
yeah,
you're afraid, they can manipulate you to do what they want to do. A lot of times, it has to do with what they want you to buy, what they want you to,
yeah,
who they want you to vote for, and so on and so on and so on. Um, Stop
yeah.
listening.
And
There is no
this is
boogeyman.
also
Right?
this is also the law of obedience. If someone is focused on fear,
Mhm.
fear comes back in return.
Mhm. And again, you were talking about Mother Nature there, and if you have an idea, which is that seed, but you watch the news every day, you're planting the seed in unfertile ground, and it's never
Mhm.
going to come to the way you want it to. In fact, that's the whole point, I think, of the media a lot of times, is they're trying to get you to stop focusing on what you want and to behave in a manner that they want.
Yeah,
That's the boogeyman. That's the real boogeyman.
that's the boogeyman, really. Yeah, so true.
Okay, so my turn, right? Okay, the purpose
Yes.
of our lesson is to learn how we might properly choose and serve the law for our highest good. We either serve principle or things in all that we think and do. Things are the events or the results of invisible causes, whereas principle is the true cause and is spirit. Principle is that which we think in our minds, and things are the results of those thoughts. A man who obeys illusions or worships things will have burdens to carry. And that's the thing too. Like you see it all the time. They only people that all they do is focus on success and having money, which I don't have a problem with that. But if that's all you're doing, chances are you're going to lose it, or you're going to end up in disease, or you're going to end up in broken marriages and children that hate you, and so on and so on. Whereas if you follow these laws, you can have all of it. You can have the success and everything else as well. But carries on here. It says a man's burdens are the things which he claims as his personal property, things that he feels are his very own, and therefore he must protect and serve them. Years ago, a relative of mine worshipped illusions and things. He strove to accumulate riches. He's worked so hard gaining his wealth that he lost his health. Then he turned about and tried to gain his health by spending his wealth. And in the end, he passed away a disappointed and disillusioned man. That man, like so many others, had started out in life with the wrong conception of the law of God. Strange, but man does not own an earthly thing. All that he has been loaned to him according to his understanding of the law he serves. Man was born naked, and he dies in that nakedness. All his earthly things are stripped off of him. Even his many burdens become illusions again. His real task in life is to find his place according to his understanding, and that understanding determines the way he lives life. Analyze your burdens. They arise from some ideas of possession that you think. You may have dependents, others who must be supplied, and you feel you must care for them as they have no other protector or provider. But when you realize the allness of God, who sees even the sparrows fall, you will then change your idea of responsibility. Then your mental release will permit a greater flow of good to come to you, and it will come to you in many other ways than before. Thousands today are held in bondage to the idea that they must be helped by others, that they must be relief. Their greatest need is not your help or mine so much as it is a new understanding of life itself. That's something too, like, again, you see it all the time. There's like I live in Canada. I would imagine Europe's the same way where you are in Austria, but like being that you're so close to the United States, like there's such a tug and war between political parties.
Yeah.
It happens everywhere. It happens in Canada too, but it seems like excessive in the United States. And one side is obviously pushing towards socialism, and then the other side is capitalism. And it's so easy to get people to get caught up in what someone else can do for you rather than what you could do for yourself. And the happy people are the ones that are doing something for themselves. See, he points out here, their greatest need is not your help or mine so much as it is a new understanding of life itself. Happiness comes from growth.
Yeah.
It's doing, right? And that's why, again, I highly recommend people reach out to us, and because we can help you do all of this.
Yeah.
I've known Karin for quite a while now, and I know that she can provide this service to others. I've seen her do it herself. So there's your little commercial for Karin Gatrinick.
Oh, thank you.
I love saying Karin Gatrinick for some reason. Karin Gatrinick.
Yeah, it's so true, because the happiness is not something you get from outside. And then I could learn it. I was able to learn it.
Yeah.
And that happiness is really something that comes from inside. You have to feel it. You have to build it inside in your heart.
Yep.
And that's really important.
And it goes back to what he was saying. It's a new understanding of life itself. We have to understand these things, and looking for someone to support and there's nothing wrong with it, especially, if someone's in need and is struggling, I think we should be helping them. We should lift them
Of
up.
course. Yeah.
But the problem is a lot of times we get caught up in providing a lifestyle for them. And that's a person who's never going to be happy. They're going to have disease. They're not going to live a happy, healthy life. And they're not going to raise happy, healthy children.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's the problem is we have to start to understand that, if you need help, there's nothing wrong with that. You should reach out and ask for it.
Yeah,
But the help you're
absolutely.
looking for should be temporary. It should be a hand up, not a hand out. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what he's getting at here is, anyways, he carries on and he says, the fear of the future has become a race belief and it affects all ages. As you obey the law of fear instead of the law of God, you have many more burdens. For only as we are able to cast our burdens upon the law shall we be free. Well, that's kind of exactly what we've just been saying, right? If you are
Yeah.
obedient to the law, you will not suffer these burdens to be heaped up high upon you. And again, that goes the same thing. If you're constantly always looking for, some way for someone to take care of you, you're going to have a lot of burdens in life.
Yeah.
You're not going to be happy, right? You will live in the present. Do your highest duty every day. Forget the past and let the future take care of itself. For to trust the law, you must know of its guidance by experience and practice. That's another thing that goes back into sowing and reaping, right? You got to practice it. To those who have not learned this guidance, the experience must be acquired. Does not require you to follow his leading on blind trust. Behold the evidence of an invisible intelligence pervading everything, even your own mind and body. Disobedience to the law is refusal to do what we know is right. We all know the right, but we do not always do it because it seems to interfere or delay our immediate attainment of the object we see. We want quick returns, forgetting that the law moves slowly, yet it works perfectly and well. We want instantly healing of our diseases, but we are loath to give up the net of habits that cause them. This is so important. You think about people that say, oh, I want this, I want that, I want a big, beautiful house. And they don't want to do anything other than go maybe to the local store and buy a lottery ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's actually just reminded me of something. There's a friend of mine, this is probably 10 years ago now, but he had recently bought a house. It was a second home, like it was an investment. And this is in Canada, kind of close to Toronto. And pretty sure actually it was Ajax, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Nobody knows what it is except me. Anyways, he bought this house as an investment. And at the time, I did mortgage financing. And he was looking for financing uh, to do the renovations because the house was a mess. So, and I knew him, so we went for coffee and then we went and looked at the house. And it turns out that he bought the house off of a bank, and the bank had taken it from the owners because they didn't pay the mortgage. And it turns out that the people that own the house won $1 million on the lottery. And they bought this house. They paid cash for the house, right? Okay. 2 or 3 years later, they were broke, no money, and went to the bank and refinanced the house because now they had no money. And they never did anything during that entire period of time to learn how to help themselves. They didn't take the $1 million and create a business or do anything, like maybe go to school, nothing. They just kept spending and spending and spending and spending to the point where they had nothing left, went to the bank and borrowed money, but they couldn't make the payments. So they went from buying a lottery ticket, winning $1 million, and within just a few years, they had nothing and were filing for
Endless.
bankruptcy.
Yeah.
See, they took the $1 million and all they did was focus on things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, had they taken that $1 million and focused on the laws, boy, they could have done something really, really fantastic. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
they didn't know, right? They didn't understand any of that. They were simply going by, we talk about this, but how they were conditioned to see the world.
Yeah.
My friend got a benefit because he actually had a very successful business and like real estate. He saw an opportunity. He had nothing to do with their failure, but he saw
Yeah.
an opportunity and bought a home that was a mess, but he got a really good deal on it and then fixed it all up. It was a much nicer home than it was even when these people bought it, when they had the $1 million. and he made a profit. See, he's using the laws. The other people weren't. So
Yeah,
just
and especially when we talk about money. So I can see it often when I work with clients. They don't see the opportunity that money works for them. They don't even see that they can bring a value to the world and to other people. And I think that that's so important. If we are focused on the value we bring out to others, the value comes back, and that's the point where the money begins to flow.
Yeah.
In and out and in and out.
Yeah. Hey, if you're putting it out in the world, you're providing a service. You're
Yeah.
providing service to this universe, and the universe will repay you for that service.
Yeah.
That's why, we and I've had this conversation. We both love this industry because you get to do exactly what you want to do, and you can make an income from it.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
you can literally help change a person's life and get paid for it at the same time. How fantastic is that? It's fabulous.
Yeah.
And
Fabulous. Yeah.
you were just talking about basically, someone not feeling worthy, or that they don't have what it takes to provide anything worthwhile. Well, that's a self-image problem. Now, if you look at all of what we're talking about here, you are brought into this world perfect. You have access to all these laws. I mentioned Elon Musk and Richard Branson. You can be them. The only difference between them and someone else is that they follow the laws. They act on it. Like, I'm not sure about
Exactly.
Elon Musk, but like Richard Branson, he quit school at grade 10 because he said, I don't need to know anything more from these people. He's
Yeah.
following. Now he's a multi-billionaire. Like, I want to live like him. He has an island in he's all by himself on this island surrounded by ocean and white sandy beaches. He has a runway there.
That's
He can
beautiful.
he
Yeah.
can fly his friends into his own private runway on his private island and fly out and go visit anywhere. Like, he doesn't even have to go because like I actually saw him one time in Toronto at a convention. There was all kinds of people, like big Tony Robbins was there and many, many more. And Richard Branson was one of them, but he wasn't physically there. He did it like this. I don't think it was Zoom at the time, but it was something like that. And yet there was like 10,000 people there to watch Richard Branson talk while he's still on his island. Like,
So
people paid a lot of money to come and listen to Richard Branson talk, and he wasn't even physically there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, anything is possible if you follow these laws.
That's true. Anything is possible. Yeah. So it's my turn, right?
I think so.
when
It says so.
we
It
speak
says so on here.
when we speak of a man of principle, we mean a man who is governed by the law of right thinking and living, a man who is not easily swayed, a man who is not an opportunist, a man who will not deviate from the path of what he deems to be right for the sake of personal profit or popular acclaim. A man, in short, whom one may trust absolutely to be true to his convictions, regardless of the temptations to change or modify them. No one will deny that such a man inspires the utmost confidence and may become a tower of strength and leadership. He is one on whom others rely for leadership. Whereas the man who is easily persuaded to yield to pressure, even for kindly motives, is not the type of individual on whom we can depend. If this is true of man in the outer realm, how much more true it is of man in the inner realm, the mental realm, because God is principle, not merely governed by principle. The God governed man is never in doubt as the results to be gained by following the principles, for principle is based on law and obedience. So this law can have only one result: happiness, peace, and prosperity. All that is required of us is to lean obedience to the law of truth and not to obey the petty things that arise steadily as we allow our visions to be disturbed and harassed. Blessed are they that hear the word of God and keep it. Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people. When we obey the voice, the law, then we understand with the master the statements. All that is mine is thine. This is the law acting through us. As we obey the law, we humble our personal self to the divine self within us. We refuse to accept the outer appearances of things as being final and true, but we turn within and seek that which is real and true as God, the law, intended it to be. Let us live with God in His work, not after we die, not tomorrow or next year, but right here and now. And this is also beautiful when he talks about the here, right, and now. Um, this here and now, this is our power. So many people live in the past, so many people live in fear of the future. We have the power here and now because this is our point of attraction. This vibration we practice now is exactly the signal we give up out to the universe.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Got to be now.
God's kingdom is all about us awaiting our acknowledgement or obedience of His law. We must be able to converse and live with God, the law, in our daily life. Then we shall live with love and joy, with hope and wealth and peace here and everywhere. It is ours for the decision. And here is another sentence. If they obey and serve Him, they shall spend the days in prosperity and their years in pleasure.
From Job 36:11.
Yes.
I was just thinking as I'm looking at that, like that's Job. But if you don't you don't understand, if English is not your first language, I would say job.
Job, yeah.
But it's so true. Like what it's saying there is, if they obey and serve Him, they're talking about the laws. They shall spend their days in prosperity and their years in pleasure. Right.
Yeah.
So when He's referring to God, He's referring to law. These are universal laws.
Yeah.
That's believing in God. But it isn't about a religious God. It's about understanding this wonderful universe, the source that provides for all. It's here right now. It's not like it's coming, and it's not like there's some entity sitting on a hill somewhere deciding who wins and who loses. No, we all win or we all lose or somewhere in the middle. It's your choice. You
Yeah.
follow
It's
the
the
law, you
choice.
win.
You
But here's the
win.
thing too: is you can follow the law and lose because you're following laws that take you to something that isn't good. And he talks about
Mm-hmm.
that person that's not humble, that person who's focusing on things and not principles. You may
Yeah.
get the thing, but you're not going to enjoy it. You're not going to live your day, or as they say, you spend your days in prosperity and your years in pleasure. It's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Well done. I love this. This is a great chapter. That's the end of this particular chapter, the law of obedience. And as we wrap things up, you got any final thoughts you would like to say, Karin Gatrinick?
I think
KarinGatrinick.com.
it's a wonderful chapter, but I think I say it after every chapter because I think this whole book is really great and I recommend really everyone to read it. This is so interesting and life gets easy with studying this material and life is so much more fun and joy and filled with love and happiness. So
I know one of the things there's a quote that I always use. In fact, I have it on my wall over here. When things get where you get a little overwhelmed or feel like, things aren't going the way you want them to, I always, look at and it says, let go and let God. And
Yeah,
that's the key. Like if you just simply let go and follow the laws, you're going to win. Like, it's saying here
absolutely.
in Job 36:11, they shall spend their days in prosperity and their years in pleasure. That's letting go and letting God, or letting go and letting the laws of the universe guide
Yeah,
you. Like there is no problem in life that does not have a solution. But if you
that's
keep
true.
focusing on the problem by law, you're going to get more problems.
Exactly.
Not always easy to understand that. And that's what we're getting at before when we're talking about prayer is, don't get on your knees and say, oh, dear Lord, or dear God, or dear universe, or whatever. Oh, help me pay my bills. You may get a little bit extra money come in, but guess what? Another couple of weeks down the road, another bill's going to come in and you're going to lose everything that you had. It's just going to keep going and going and going. If I think that people need to understand that if you are not living the life of your dreams, it's because you're not following the law. You're focusing on
Absolutely.
what's wrong.
Hmm.
Let go and let God.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's why we have to learn to speak the language of the universe
Right.
and the language of vibration and frequencies,
That's right.
and
And,
that's fun.
and I bet you could help people learn that, right?
Yes, I love it.
In fact, your horses can help with that, right?
Absolutely.
Tell,
Yeah.
tell me, tell us a little bit how the horses do that again.
This is interesting with the horses because you can't lie or hide something in front of the horses. They know everything and they feel everything. They feel and know everything before we know it because they feel the vibration that is active in the subconscious mind. And if my clients come and they have problems, the horse shows it exactly what's going on subconsciously.
Yeah. Pretty fascinating. Like the thing that's interesting about us is we probably can do the same thing, but we got all these layers of garbage that come from the environment that get laid on
Yeah,
top of all this, so we can't see it anymore. You know,
yeah,
we see a different reality than the truth, and whereas a horse doesn't have all this stuff. They don't
yeah.
have all these things. They go by instinct. They know that they need to eat. They need to do this. They need to do that. And yes, you can condition them to behave in certain ways, but you can't get rid of that. And that's the
Hmm.
beautiful thing about animals. I think even, like I think horses obviously seem to be even stronger at it. But like I've got a cat that I think can probably do something similar. Like it knows when it should come near me or shouldn't. Um, Actually,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I must be in a good vibration because this cat won't leave me alone. So it's the same thing with with dogs. The dogs, same thing. Like they come. When you're even when you're sad, a
Hmm.
dog will come and start wagging his tail. Well, it's kind of hard to be sad when you got a dog sitting there wagging his tail, right? Like it wants to show you that it loves you and cares about you and wants to put you in a good vibration. And it's fascinating. Like we can do it ourselves to
Yes.
ourselves, right? But you
Yeah.
have to learn and understand the laws.
Hmm.
Hopefully, from following us on Working with the Law by Raymond Hollowell, that people that are watching will start following, and maybe even call Karen Gatrinig or Lee Jenkins, whichever, whichever you prefer. I'm trying to be humble.
No.
So anyhow, any final thoughts as we say goodbye? I think we've probably pretty much covered everything, haven't we?
I appreciate the of all the people they spent the time today,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to next week's session.
A lot of success.
A lot of success.
And if people want to learn more about the other programs we have, you can reach out to Karen or myself and talk about the Elevate Network. We have not only this program, but others that I think you're going to probably find um, very informative. Um, So again, reach out to Karin if you're interested, or myself, and we'll make sure you get that, as well as if you want a copy of the book, we can certainly get you a downloadable version of that as well. And as we wrap it up, I'm Lee Jenkins, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye. I'm Karin.
Take care.